We'll start with Karen Howard first. She's Executive Director of Office of Online Services at IRS. She's going to talk about smarter self-service.
Well, hello, everyone. I am going to see how you react to my disrobing first, okay? We'll see what happens here. Some of you can remember the original mass AI attempt by technology, and we'll talk about where we've come since then. All right, so the judge preambled a little bit of what I was going to say. AI is not new. What is new is how we have adopted it, how it's moved into mass market, and the usage over the last, I would say, 10 years. Most recently, as the judge stated, 2022, when ChatGPT came out. But AI is not new. Who remembers Clippy? All right, it's not the AI of today, but it was the first attempt. It launched in 1997 as part of Microsoft Office's 1997 as a great example of AI-like system. Clippy was designed as an intelligent user assistant that was offered to provide help and tips based on the user's behaviors in Word and other Office applications, right? Clippy had a short lifespan. About 10 years later, Clippy was put to rest. But not really, because we still see Clippy memes, right? Clippy is kind of the icon of the original mass-marketed AI. Clippy remains memorable. I love Clippy. I mean, this is one of my favorite shirts. So I thought I'd bring it here today for those of you who may be, seasoned, because saying old is not politically correct, seasoned enough to remember it. AI tech has come a long way since Clippy's rule-based AI efforts. And while Clippy tried to guess your needs, the innovations that have come in the last 10 years recently for AI has really, really opened up a land of opportunity. So I'm going to share a personal story with you. So I didn't, my career wasn't in government, tax, or anything like that. I'm Karen Howard from the Office of Online Services, IRS. It was in fashion merchandising and marketing. And my dream job was to be a fashion designer. This is my team here. They know the story. And I applied coming out of high school to FIT, which is a Fashion Institute of Technology, Parsons, all the design schools that you can think of. And though I could sew and tailor and do all of the handwork, my drawing wasn't very good, right? And so you had to be able to do all of that, put your concepts on paper to be able to get into these schools with a scholarship. So that was my failed attempt at being a fashion designer. The AI of today makes the impossible possible because there are AI tools and large language models now that will design for you. You don't even have to know how to draw. So imagine I could be a fashion designer today. You guys could be wearing my label. Anyway, I digress. So my point there is that AI will open up doors that you didn't know you can open or will make your dreams a reality if you embrace it in a responsible way. Every year, over 160 million individuals interact with the IRS. And through user research and behavioral analytics, we've narrowed down only four things that people really want to do when they interact with the IRS. And we call those the 4 jobs to be done. That's file taxes, get your money, pay your money, or get help with information. That's it. That's all you want to do, 4 things. You can clump any of your actions with the IRS into those 4 things. So in understanding that and boiling it down to a vision for how we leverage AI and put AI into action, it was really centered around how we help people accomplish those 4 things. So we've designed several bots at key taxpayer touch points to help answering questions and guide process steps to assist in abating. Our ultimate goal is to abate calls and encourage self-service for most of the issues that people who interact with the agency want. That includes visiting our tax centers. This reduces government spending and supports efficiency in the taxpayers' journeys to get the jobs done. And again, it's just those 4 jobs. Some of the things that we have use cases, because IRS is going to take a very methodical, very cautious approach. So we're focusing on use cases. And just to give you some stats around our use cases, as of April 2025 of this year, we have 101 active use cases as of April. 44 of them are around operations, internal support to help employees with the tools to help taxpayers and taxpayer communities in the 4 jobs to be done. 57 are in development, 65 are predictive, 36 are generative, 87 are for internal use with our employees, 14 are for external use for the public, 47 are for operational efficiency, 35 are for compliance and fraud. We don't want to talk about that here, right? None of that. And then 19 are for taxpayer services. So when you think about, as long as AI has been out there and we have 101 use cases, we're taking a very measured, a very test and learned approach in how we put AI in action. We've deployed several bots at key taxpayer touch points to help answer questions or guide process steps to really assist people in accomplishing those 4 jobs to be done. So I'm going to run down some of the bots if you've not been on the irs.gov website and experienced some of these things that are moving really towards leveraging AI and putting it into action to help you with your tax needs. We have the Advanced Child Tax Credit. We've launched a chatbot, a voice bot, sorry. We have automated collection system, which we leverage voice bots to help with that, help you with that. We have automated underreporter. If you've underreported, and we know that, we have AI voice bots to help recognize that. We have the economic impact payment, which is really, really, really needed during COVID time, that really helped people wanting to understand where they were with that. We have a voice bot that helps with that. FAQs for notice clarification, so you receive a notice and there's a lot of legalese that you don't understand. We have a voice bot that helps you simplify that and answer your questions around that. Insolvency and offer in crime, we have a voice bot. Where's my refund and where's my amended return? There's a voice bot, and those are 2 of the most popular ones now. Taxpayer services, you can actually use AI and chat with it for general taxpayer services questions. And online accounts, for those of you who don't have an online account, you really need to get one. Where we're moving with online account, advancing AI and automation is really going to help you understand your tax obligation, answer your questions, but more than that, understand credits and deductions that you didn't even know you can get, and that's where we're moving. So we will be able to leverage AI to be able to say, oh, you just added another child. Did you know there's a tax credit for that that you could take advantage of? So those type of self-help, advocate to make sure that you're getting what you deserve in the tax compliance space. Ultimately, our goal is to use AI, generative and predictive, to reduce burden on the taxpayer and burden on our employees, not to add complexity and make systems and solutions effective. The jobs that we know taxpayers want to do when they interact with us, we've recognized those. And if we can boil them down to 4 specific jobs, then we can design leveraging AI and automation to help facilitate the most common, 90% of the most common things folks want to do. And then the 10%, which are really the corner cases or oddities, those are the ones that really should be leveraging the in-person. And so looking at AI to really remove that burden from both sides, the employee and the taxpayer. At IRS, we are cautiously learning. So we're not trying to be the first ones out of the gate. We're learning from people who've already done things, growing and testing the things that we want to do in this space. The learning is critical to not only for our own efforts, but from the efforts of others. Who in here has done something? What can they teach us? How can we leverage things that have been tried and failed or tried and are iterating on? We've learned that things like data governance, transparency, explainability, humans in the loop are critical and crucial and have to be part of our overall AI in action strategy. We've also learned that hallucinations are real, biases are real, and what AI provides back is only as accurate as the people behind it. So there can be a lot of inaccuracy there. And how do we make sure, especially in the field that we're in, that people are getting accurate information? That underscores the human, how the human element is an imperative to AI in action. So I close with this. If you remember, Clippy was the infant of AI when we talk about the mass usage and mass consumption. We learned, the technology corporations learned from Clippy and took it to the next level. And I would urge you to take that approach. So start small, start targeted, learn and listen. And the biggest failure of Clippy was that it didn't have the user experience behind it and the human in the loop. And that's how we are where we are today. Thank you very much.
Aaron, thank you so much. The reducing administrative burdens, that is, you were very much speaking my language, something I know everyone here working in government knows so much about, both on citizen-facing and employee-facing. So Josh is up next. Josh Pfeiffer is Principal Solutions Architect at Elastic. He's here to talk about agentic AI's role in data-driven ops.
All right, thank you. As you said, my name is Josh Pfeiffer. I'm a Principal Solutions Architect with Elastic. And in this role, I'm also our lead for our civilian agencies as they are looking at implementing any sort of search or artificial intelligence initiatives on their side, and they want to use an Elastic product. I help them to actually kind of see how they would go about doing that, how they can implement that in a way that's going to be very effective for them and all their users. And what's great about this role and what I really love about it is that I get to interact with all of the agencies every single day and see how they're actually wanting to implement AI and how they're thinking about it, and then how they're actually using all of their data for that. So I get to see the people who are just kind of stepping their toes into it, just starting to experiment with AI and saying, hey, we'd really like to do something with this. What could we possibly do to allow our users to be more effective, to people who have already implemented RAG applications within their infrastructure, all the way up to people who are now leveraging agentic AI, kind of taking that RAG and really kind of putting it to that next level to be even more effective with their time and their data. So I'd like to talk with 3 ways that we're starting to see people starting to leverage that agentic functionality there. One that's kind of a search focus, one that's going to be more on a security operations, and then lastly, how do we actually leverage all of this for our structured data as well? So on the search side, what we're starting to see is people want to have conversational search. They don't necessarily just want to get the links to where they're finding this information, but they want to be able to just ask their questions and get back all of those answers. And that's where RAG has definitely been able to help quite significantly with that, be able to have that conversation where you can take all of this information, find the most relevant documents with your private data, so you can leverage this in offline environments, more secure, disconnected networks without having to go out into the internet to leverage something like ChatGPT directly. Being able to use something like the, excuse me, the new open weights models you can host in your own infrastructure to allow you to still leverage that AI functionality. What agentic is doing, though, is allowing these organizations to have even more complex queries. So if I want to ask a question, what's the difference between thing A, B, and C, a direct RAG or kind of even traditional search, it'd be a lot harder to actually give you the information for that. What that agentic functionality can do is say, okay, let me first break down this query into all the subparts. What do I need to do to find out what is thing A and then B and C? Take all of this information together, synthesize a result, and then provide that back to the user, giving them citations, grounding it in your own private data, allowing them to actually still go back and see exactly where it found that information, but giving them real contextual information that's helpful for them. And for me, this is actually one of the things that I love so much about AI, is it makes knowledge accessible. How do we make all of our internal knowledge, the stuff that we have in our PDFs and our videos, our images, our audio tracks, how do we take all this organizational knowledge we have and make it accessible to our users? So the second area that we're starting to see a lot of people dipping their toes in with the agentic functionality is on that security operations side. So right now, an analyst, they log into their SOC, they might have 1,000 alerts in there. In order to get through all of that, they're just looking at it sorting by severity. I'm going to look at my criticals first. I'm going to go to highs. Maybe I've got a couple new criticals that popped up, so I have to go back and revisit those. And they look at each one of these alerts as their own investigation, starting from scratch every single time they go into a new alert. By leveraging an agentic assistant, what they're able to now do is say, hey, why don't you look at all these alerts for me? I'm going to give you my 1,000 alerts that I have, and then the agentic assistant can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to compare this to our internal documentation, our business processes. How should I actually go about investigating all this? And hey, I've also found 100 of these alerts are actually specific to an incident that's going on. I can see that this user opened a file that did this process on this host, that reached out to this external IP, and hey, I've also correlated that with some threat intelligence, and I can see that this is actually a malicious IP. So you have this ability to, instead of going through all of these alerts one by one, to have a complete investigative start set for you. Still keep the human in the loop so they can kind of be there before you maybe make any sort of actual processes for it, but allowing you to have much more efficient use of your analyst time, allowing them to focus more on those important things that are actually in the environment and happening there. And then lastly, what we're starting to see with a lot of agencies is how can we access our structured data in a way that's going to be more effective? We have these databases, but we don't necessarily want to give direct access to it. We don't need our users to understand the data schema and how everything's kind of laid out there. But we still want them to be able to use this data without maybe necessarily having access to an external tool. And recently, Anthropic developed this Model Context Protocol, MCP. You might have heard a lot about it recently. What's great about this with an agentic functionality is it can take that whole, I have a question, I want to know how many Medicare claims that were over $5,000 that were denied that had this list of specific conditions with it. I want to know more about these. That functionality can take that information and say, okay, let me first query a vector database to find out more information about that. Then I know that we have a database where we have information about these Medicare claims in it. So what I want to do is I want to build a query by identifying what the data schema is for that database, then run that query, take all of that information together, compile it back, and then give that back to that user. So it's allowing us to ask natural language questions of all these vast troves of our structured data as well, to make that information and that knowledge accessible to everybody. And again, that's really what this is all about. Leveraging artificial intelligence, RAG, agentic AI, to make us more effective and to make all of this knowledge accessible to all of our users. So the information, right, we have all this data, we have the information. AI obviously is here, the tools are here. We're starting to have these open weights models come out that you can use these in more secure networks. So now it's really kind of like, how do we actually put this into place in our own workflows to make our own internal knowledge accessible to all those users? So, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Making knowledge accessible, definitely something I know will be sticking with me for a while, so thank you so much, Josh. Now, Steve Wallace, CTO and Director of Emerging Technology at DISA, is going to talk about AI supporting the warfighter.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Wallace. As was mentioned, I am from the Defense Information Systems Agency. So maybe a real quick primer for who we are and what we do within DISA. The Department of Defense is a really large place. But for DISA, our mission is IT and the defense of the networks, that type of thing for the Department of Defense. We support the men and women in uniform in what is potentially the most stressful points in their lives. And we take that very seriously as part of that mission and how we deliver capability. So I know the topic is obviously AI in action, and we see AI lending its way in a few different places. For us, it's about maximizing decision space. So as the commander or what have you needs information, the faster we get that information to them and the more trustworthy that information is, the better decision that they can make. And if you provide them that decision advantage, that's when we win. So with that, we've we've actually watched, and it was you brought up Clippy. We've watched the proliferation of AI not just since November of 2022 when ChatGPT 3 was announced. We've actually watched it for a long period of time work its way in across the board, right? And in the best cases, it's when the user doesn't even know that it's there. So in a lot of our cyber defenses and a lot of the tools over the years, we've seen the predictive side, the inference side of AI work its way in, whether that be the sensors that sit at the perimeter, all the way up through some more interesting ways of using AI across the board. So I'll talk about a few of those, and then I'll talk about some of the more business use cases that we're using it for today within DISA. So one in particular that I found really fascinating because it combined a number of different techniques. We have a capability that we use to sort of separate ourselves. I think the industry term is remote browser isolation. We use these RBI techniques to create some separation in the user's browsers. Obviously, that's where a lot of threats make their way into the environment, but we use RBI today. But like any proxy, traditionally RBI relied on things like site categorization, that sort of thing. And we see the adversaries moving at a pace today that makes categorization, frankly, less and less useful. Categorization, the moment that a site is categorized, it's potentially stale and it's already been popped and the adversary has moved. One of the interesting things, though, that we've seen a few vendors implement, and one that we've tested and actually worked really well, was using AI, using computer vision to look at a page, see what's actually going on the page, look at the logos. Do the logos correspond to what I see elsewhere on the page? Look at the document object model within the page. Does that document object model line up to what I'm seeing visually out of the computer vision model? How else am I seeing this page line up? And then making a real-time assessment versus relying on a categorization to allow access or deny access, or maybe change the interaction between the user and the site, making the site maybe read-only, or even stripping elements away from the site in real time. Another prototype that we wrapped up the first phase, we're moving into the next phase, was using network detection and response, so NDR. NDR was a fascinating thing that has sort of, it's becoming more common now, but it's the same approach as what we saw with EDR on the endpoint detect response, but this is at the network level. And what we see there is the mashup of those predictive models with the generative AI models. We talked about the toil of too many alerts, that sort of thing. We see that constantly, right? And we're not going to people our way out. We constantly say that. But that was one of the real use cases where I saw NDR in action, where we are seeing things on the network that we weren't seeing there before. And being able to take the output of what the models are seeing and then using a large language model to help the analyst put the information together, understand it better, and then convey that up the chain and obviously make changes, advance the network, defend the network. So those are a few places where we're seeing it more on the cyber defense side of things. On the business side, we talked about the bot approaches to things. Within my own agency, I've been there approximately 15 years, and over that time, there was often hey, how do I do this? How do I rent a government car? How do I change my work schedule? Basic HR type of questions that exist in a policy somewhere, within a repository somewhere. But these are where we're actively using chatbots now and getting better about it to bring that information to the forefront to help the employee move faster. Take that toil away and replace that toil with action and again, help us be more responsive and defend the department's networks. So with that, I know my time's up, but I'll be available for questions. Thank you.
Excellent. You stole my thunder. We're opening up now for Q&A. We've got microphones. Just raise your hand and we'll get one to you, I believe. In the interim, I did want to bring the question about workforce infrastructure, the fundamental shifts. I know that's something we've all dealt with. how is that necessary, and how are you scaling those shifts in your organizations? Karen, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think the first thing.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Mike.
Hi. I think the first thing you have to do is recognize the organizational readiness and then the skill gaps, where there might be skill gaps that you will have to fill. The second thing is look at the expertise of your team, because you will leverage those experts to, I like to say, manage the information, the large language model, right? So you can drop a AI type tool in, but you need someone who have that expertise. So it's funny, I was talking to an employee yesterday who came into my office and said, I guess I need to learn AI. I said, wow, that's a big undertaking. And, his perception, which can be fearful, I think people think they have to go and take. I was like, you do realize that AI is only going to leverage your expertise to make you fast, to the output, increase the output, make it faster. So don't focus on going to learn the whole gamut of AI. If you're a content publisher, find that AI tool that is a specialty in content publishing, and then drop your style guidelines and all the things you do and train it to look for that and audit. And so I think it really helped bring a sense of calm to him that, oh, okay, so I am important, I will bring value. And getting your employees to recognize the problems you need to solve that are mundane, repetitive tasks, then you're able to scale in real time based on your major areas that could use that scaling. So once you get employees on board to help you understand where we need to start and how we continue to increase the knowledge and the training to support the tools, you'll be able to scale rapidly and with logic and solve real world problems.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important, and Alexis, I thought, put it really well at the beginning, is that using AI, if you're going to use it just to cheat, you're not really kind of learning a lot from it. That's one thing. But if you use it to, and at Elastic sometimes we refer to it as bridging the skills gap, if you use it to be better and kind of understand how you can use that technology and implement it better, to learn from it and to become better yourself, that also helps you to understand how you can implement more things within your organization and how to actually go about scaling your own infrastructure as well as your own internal knowledge. And I think there is maybe a little bit of a problem with some people outsourcing their critical thinking to AI, and we definitely don't want to do that. So as long as we can ensure that our people are using it correctly, I think that we can really gain a lot of benefit from it.
Yeah, so I ironically, I had somebody poke his head into my office yesterday, 5 minutes before the start of a meeting. Yeah. And he came and he was like, I want to use AI to solve HR problems. And I said, okay, that's great. I love the enthusiasm, but why don't we sit down and talk about the problem, right? What problem are we trying to solve? It's just like a few years ago where the answer to every equation was blockchain, and after that it was zero trust. The answer isn't always AI. Let's figure out your problem, and there might be an application here. Got it. So one of the things that we are doing within DISA is we've got a small but mighty team in my team who is putting together. They understand well the application and the way that it can be used, but what they don't always understand or appreciate is the full challenges that some of the people within the respective groups are having. We have partnerships on the other side where people understand their problems but don't know how to get after the technology side. So we're bringing them together. We're starting a roadshow, going organization by organization, sitting down with the teams and going back and forth and trying to help them maximize the use of this stuff without getting past the hype, getting past I'll leave it there. Getting past the hype, but actually the practical application of this, and people are super excited. They want to do this. You have a workforce that is uber engaged, so let's take advantage of it and let's figure out how to make the most of it.
All right, we are up against time, unfortunately, so we won't be able to do any more questions, but certainly we can engage. People will be around. I want to thank everyone up here for your insight, your analysis, and everything. And thanks, everybody, for hanging in.